Welcome to the Focal Insights Podcast Founder Hour edition, hosted by co-founder Joe Pawlak. Joe has been in the e-commerce industry for over 25 years. He grew and bootstrapped his own startup to a successful exit. Founder Hour episodes go behind the scenes to learn how some of the best e-commerce brands were founded, grown, and operated straight from the founders themselves. Founder Hour is brought to you by Focal Software, a new generation ERP and operation suite for e-commerce brands and third-party marketplace sellers. Focal was built with SMB brands and marketplace sellers in mind to help them grow profitably. Now let's welcome our host, Joe Pawlak.
Hello and welcome to the Focal eCommerce Insights podcast, where we chat with e-commerce entrepreneurs about business, selling online, and how to overcome challenges for success. Today we have a very exciting guest, but before we get started, for listeners not familiar with this podcast or Focal Software is an e-commerce operations software and marketplace account management company. So if you need help growing your business profitably, be sure to stay tuned to future podcasts or feel free to reach out. Joining us today is Veronica Cockerham, who is the co-founder of Apple Blossom Gift Baskets, a company that makes high-end gift baskets and boxes for corporate and real estate. She co-founded Apple Blossom with her mother in 2023, has a degree in business administration, management, and operations from City University of Seattle. She has started or owned 3 previous businesses, including Freedom Snacks, C&L Games, and South End Auto. Some of her accolades include Top Local Gift Shop in 2024 and is currently nominated for the Rising Star Award. She's selling her products in both retail and online, and she currently lives and works in Kent, Washington, which is just outside of Seattle. Veronica, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much, Joe. It's great to be here.
All right. Well, we always start the podcast with getting the backstory on being an entrepreneur or a business owner, because a lot of the challenges with owning and running a business are the same, but the story and the motivation is always different and oftentimes very interesting. So why don't you tell us about your business ownership and entrepreneurialism? And you can go back to any of your previous businesses, or you can focus on Apple Blossom, whichever you like.
Well, so I have an eclectic background in the world of business. I've never really had a job per se. I don't think I do very well at having a boss. I started working for my family business, which was an automotive business. We had a wrecking and salvage yard where we sold used car parts. So that was kind of a interesting way to grow up. I was the only girl in a very male-dominated industry, and I learned to be a mechanic. I did that for 11 years, and I helped my dad run that company. From there, I decided I was going to start my own company, and I started Freedom Snacks, which was a gourmet popcorn manufacturing business. I grew that from my garage to a nationwide popcorn company, and we sold that. I took a few years off, and I started Apple Blossom with my mom back a couple of years now, and that's what we're currently doing. We kind of had some connections that we made with the popcorn business doing corporate gifting, and we really enjoyed that. So we decided to kind of run with that and not manufacture our own goods anymore. So we buy items, we repackage them, and we sell them instead of manufacturing. That had some had some struggles in the world of manufacturing your own goods and then going all the way to the end customer versus kind of being a little bit more in the middle of that progression. And so today that's what we're currently doing, and I really enjoy it. I have a lot of flexibility because I'm able to work from home, and I've got a couple of kids that I'm very, very involved with and busy with, homeschooling my oldest. And so that's kind of a little me in a nutshell.
All right. Well, something you said there jumped out at me, and this is really pretty common with people that feel compelled or know that they're going to have their own company, and that is that you said you're not very good with bosses, and that's really pretty common. But when you get into business and you're running your own business, and maybe you learn this a little bit with the auto shop, that everybody kind of has a boss, even when you own your own company, right? So you've got maybe an investor or certainly your customers that you have to make happy. So in a sense, they're dictating what you do and how you succeed. So can you talk a little bit about that and how you maybe evolved from having a boss to maybe customers as bosses?
I would totally agree with you in that my customers are my bosses. I think that the way that I really work is I don't want, my dad was my boss for a long time when I was younger. And I don't necessarily function very well in this is how we do things. Now you need to do it our way, or you need to follow this certain process versus I know what needs to be done. I know what's going to make my clients happy, and I'm going to do it my way. And I find that, I just work better under that. I'm going to wake up at whatever time. I'm going to start working when I want. I'm going to end working when I want. And it's kind of like, I know what that end project needs to be, but how I get there, I don't want designated by somebody else.
Yeah, and that is one of the biggest challenges to people that have a business owner or entrepreneur spirit, is being told this is what you need to go now, go do it, when you know that at least you believe there's a better way,
Yeah, right.
more efficient way, and so the thought process then is, hey, I can do this better myself, and I can help these customers better myself, and then they go off and start a company and do that. But that has a lot of challenges that people don't expect. So let's talk a little bit about that. When you started any of these companies, what challenges did you come across initially? Because you need capital, you need to do some research and product fit and so on. So what challenges did you face as you jumped into starting your own company?
Well, there's been different challenges with each business. I know when I started my gourmet popcorn company, capital was a much larger challenge for me. So that was very grassroots, and it was working for not much and reinvesting in the company. So that's how I had a lot of organic growth, because I didn't want to necessarily take on this massive loan. So what I did is it took longer doing this, but as I sold, I just continued to reinvest and reinvest and reinvest, and then grow and grow and grow and grow. And I was able to do that. It took, like I say, it took longer, but I never had to take on any massive debt. But there was a lot of struggles, especially with that company in the manufacturing world, where it was, when you're talking about manufacturing, their packaging is huge. And we were doing food, which also came with a whole nother line of struggles. You've got inspections that need to be done, nutritional facts, barcodes, and all that kind of stuff that I just kind of figured, well, I had this great product, I'll bag it up and people will buy it. And there's just so much more to it. In all reality, you don't necessarily always have to have the best product. It's the presentation of it that matters so much. And that includes obviously marketing and all that kind of stuff. But, we also struggled a lot with packaging. Shelf life was something I had never even thought about. And so able to organically grow that, but there were a lot of bumps in the road. This time around with this business, capital wasn't necessarily so much of a struggle, because I had sold my other businesses, and so I had money to invest. And I found that inventory management has been incredibly difficult, because I have to hold stock for the gifting company. Every gift box or gift basket has multiple products in it, and each design has different themes, and you have to deal with things expiring and waste. And so kind of trying to venture into selling more hard goods, or more this or more that, and then having to substitute, that was one of the things that's been a real struggle for me, is just that inventory management side of it. Every vendor's got a minimum. And so it's like, well, I may only stock one item that they sell, but I'm going to buy a whole bunch of them to hit their minimum. And so we run into that sometimes, but that's a constant dance. So every day I'm working on how to streamline that so we just have less waste. And that has definitely been a learning curve for sure. Also, one other thing that is such a time consuming thing for me that I didn't ever expect was when I get all of the product in, unboxing it all, putting it all away, and dealing with all of purchasing and dealing with all of the inventory. That is super time consuming. I didn't think that it would be hours and hours and hours of box knives and, and bubble wrap and then having to do it on the other side for the customers when we're shipping it out. So many boxes and bubble wrap here.
Yeah. So your inventory issues, it kind of starts with almost like a manufacturing to create a finished good with multiple components or assembly, you could call it. So we'll talk about more about that in just a minute. But something you also managed with starting the popcorn business was cash, and you bootstrapped it, right? You just used the funds. So then at that point, sales becomes a major component because your sales are what's going to drive the success and any growth potentially. So was that a challenge for you, or was that all on you as well as you got that business going? Did you hire salespeople, or how'd you solve that need for getting revenue in to fund and to grow?
Absolutely. So I got creative, and before we were in a storefront, what I did was I would go out on the weekends and work farmers markets, and I would work, at different events. But then what I started to do too is I would go to different sales, I guess you would call it like a distributor show. So I approached different distributors and I said, hey, if you let me come be in your show and present my product to your buyers, let's see if you take me on. And so I was able to, have a product line. I did this in small grocery too, where we'd go to the event, we'd show our product line and say, okay, well, the distributor will carry us if you'll buy us. And so I was able, so it was kind of like a trade show, I guess. Kind of. It's a little bit more, it's not open to the public, but specific buyers. And that really helped get us into consistent orders from wholesale. So we got in distribution. It was local, small distribution, but it was something. And then we had the farmers market, which was it was cash. It was cash on the side that we could use to buy product, buy inventory. And it, kind of just helped because, you've got really longer lead times with when you start dealing with the distributor, when you get paid and all that kind of stuff. So then after we grew and we moved actually into a storefront, we had that cash flow coming in the front door. Then we also had the cash flow coming in. I hired a series of people to work events and to work farmers markets. So locally, we had a really massive presence. Every Saturday, we were at 10 farmers markets. And again, that was really great literal cash flow. And then on the side, my mom, who had prior experience working for a really big food distributor, had a few connections. So we were working trade shows. She was kind of working some connections, and we got into more distribution and eventually into Whole Foods and a couple other larger grocery chains here locally. But so it was really just a progression of you just keep showing your stuff and keep telling people, and then somebody else will say, hey, you should try over here. But distribution was really, really helpful because we just couldn't distribute it ourselves,
Yeah, and you hear a lot of startups, small companies doing trade shows and farmers markets and things like that. It's super time consuming and hard work. Were you expecting that? Was that part of your business plan to roll out, or was that something you just said,
oh gosh,
gotta get out in front of people?
None of it was ever part of my business plan. If there's one thing as an entrepreneur that you have to be good at, and that is pivoting. I would say with this business, with that business, with any of my other ventures, none of it was what I had planned originally. So I never expected having a fleet of people working farmers markets that was actually really good cash flow. I never expected that. I thought we were going to make this great popcorn. I'd walk into QFC or Albertsons and I'd say, here, put my stuff on the shelf, and they'd just do it. And it does not work that way. I learned that But I was young, and now it was far more complicated than that.
All right. Well, let's switch gears a little bit because I know you're selling online as well, and
Uh-huh.
Focal Software is a an e-commerce company. So, so it sounds like you started out doing trade shows, farmers markets, got some distribution stuff, and that's all very brick and mortar stuff up to a
Yes.
certain point. But I know you are selling online. So talk a little bit about what you got going on there and how you got started with that and how it's going for you.
Yes. So with the popcorn company, we just had a little bit online. So I took that knowledge and I really kind of applied that to this business. So with our gifting company, I focus on trying to get to those real estate agents, trying to get to corporate and all of that kind of stuff. So what I have done is I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. I've hired a few people, I've talked to some people, and I have taken all of that knowledge from other people and just asked. I mean, anybody I can ask, I ask because I was not super well versed in the world of online selling. And so I started with Etsy, and I still do Etsy. That's been a good source of, I guess, it's not super lucrative, I would say, because they have so many fees, but it's been really good exposure. So I use Etsy as a tool, and my marketing costs are really selling product, is how that kind of works. So every time we sell everything, that really kind of just goes into how much I'm bolstering my marketing. But I've gotten clients that are really big fish from that because when Etsy markets, they market across everything. You're going to see an Etsy ad while you're on Google. You're going to see an Etsy ad all these other places, and it's fairly affordable. And so I've actually gotten contacted from clients that are large corporate customers or real estate agents that say, "Hey, I saw you on Etsy or I saw you online here," and they're making orders that are, $10,000 or $15,000. So but all my sales on Etsy and all my advertising just kind of ends up paying for itself. So I've used Etsy in that way. For our website, obviously we do Shopify, which is like probably the most common platform there is. And I took a few classes on SEO, learned how to do some photography. I think that that's been huge. And then I've also done a lot of focus on keyword and our niche of being local. Um, we're here in Washington, and we focus on a lot of Washington made local businesses, locally made products. And because I can't compete with Harry and David, I can, however, focus on that local um, product, small business stuff. And it's great keywords because the competition isn't there. And we've been able to find a lot of success in that way because we're also near a metropolitan city. I mean, Seattle's huge. If I can just sell to such a small fraction of people here in this state, in this city, I can be grossing, multi-million dollars a year just off of that. So I don't necessarily have to compete with Harry and David. So from an online selling standpoint, those are the things I've really focused on is just being really hyper local because you're going to get more for your ad dollars. You're going to get, more for your keywords. And it's something I think that a lot of people don't think about when they're starting an online business is to really utilize that. You got to find your niche. And if you're trying to compete with the big boys, you can't compete with Amazon.
Yeah, and really to compete with anybody, you have to have some brand awareness, and that's a real
Yes,
good point of marketplaces can bring you an additional revenue stream, but they're also just getting you out there and getting some customers, getting some awareness, maybe getting some word of mouth. You're just building something and taking a two-prong approach to it with Etsy, which sounds
mhm.
fantastic. Okay, so let's go back now to your inventory challenges because you've got to have some tools to run your business. We talked about Shopify and Etsy. I mean, I'd consider those kind of part of a loosely your tech stack. But
Yeah,
how are you? What tools do you use to run the business and keep track of your parts and then your finished goods, which are baskets, right?
right.
Which is challenging. So what are you doing there to manage that inventory?
Well, for the most part, Shopify is really helpful in that way. I use that as our inventory management. Etsy also obviously requires you to have inventory, but it's a little more difficult when you're talking about the end product because you can say what I have like 5 of these gift boxes in stock, but in all reality of each item, I have different volumes. And that's where Shopify comes in. So Shopify, I've got all of my individual products and then I have our finished goods. So I do a non-inventory track on our finished goods and then all the individual products, it tracks our cost. So it gives us margin. And we can, put things on sale accordingly. And it makes it so easy to have it all in one place where I can look at the Shopify thing and says, oh, my cost is, $5. I'm selling it for 10. I can put it on sale for 9. And I know that, on average, a client's going to have a 15% discount. And, we can also buy our shipping tags through there too. So I can keep that in mind when pricing and inventory and all that kind of stuff too for retail price.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like from a operations standpoint, you're using Shopify primarily. I'm assuming you've got QuickBooks
Oh,
for
yeah.
some accounting, and then probably maybe some spreadsheets, or are you able to manage
Yeah.
it all with Shopify?
I do most of it through Shopify. As much as, we used Excel forever, Google Sheets is really handy now, I think, because I love the shareability of it. Excel was kind of like you save your document and then you email it off and it's kind of done. Whereas Google Sheets, you can send somebody a link. I'll work with some clients this way if they're sending me a list of addresses or purchases or things like that. Whereas this live sheet. So I like Google Sheets. QuickBooks, of course. I don't know how you get by without QuickBooks, but but yeah, mainly for inventory, Shopify is very powerful. They've got a lot of great tools that are just dialed in. They've got it figured out. I
Yeah.
own stock in Shopify for that reason. I think I think they've got a lot
There
of
you
things
go.
right.
You're a believer.
I am. I am a believer in it.
All right. Well, as far as the e-commerce market goes, it's about $6 trillion right now per year in sales. About 1/4 of everything purchased is online, and that's growing very quickly as well. What do you think the future is? And do you see if you're growing your company, are you going to expand into other marketplaces, or what else do you think you need to do to keep up with this increasing online demand?
Well, I definitely agree with you. The world of brick and mortar is, I mean, who goes anywhere to buy anything anymore? Uh, I mean, unless you've got food, I think that the brick and mortar is pretty tough. I foresee the incorporation of AI is huge. I have a few ideas with my business of how I want to incorporate that a little bit more into what we offer. I've got a couple of ideas I'm throwing around, but it's so massive and it's just AI is incredible. I use ChatGPT all the time, and all the AI things, but I want to do kind of a gift building thing. Anyways, I'm working on that on the side, but I think that I'd like to grow into a little bit more of a more broad spectrum and get away from the locality of our business as soon as we are financially able to do that. As after our profit margins increase a little bit more and we've got a little bit more disposable income, I would like to grow that and also go into Amazon. I know Amazon is going to be really numbers based though, and right now we have high margin, with a little bit more quality focus than quantity. And I know with Amazon, you've got to do quantity. And so when we're able to kind of produce more, I would like to get into Amazon Marketplace because Amazon rules the world. And I would like to see that in the future, but that's still a few years down the road, I think, before we could really take off with that. But we just take, I'm thinking like one or two just really good sellers, good designs, and then put that onto Amazon. And then that's just kind of our Amazon thing where we still offer the largest spectrum of stuff on our website and the large variety. the building your own gift option, where I'd like to, like I say, incorporate a little more AI in there, but that's been successful for us.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy. And most people don't know that many of the most successful sellers on Amazon have less than 10 products on Amazon. And many of them even have less than 5 that they focus on and just make sure that they have the inventory to keep it stocked and make
Yeah.
sure that you have the margins, and then, use tools that give you visibility into the fees so you can make sure that, like you said, it's not just a volume game, but it's got to be profitable or you're just moving a lot of stuff around.
Yeah, it's busy work at that point, right?
Yeah, and of course, when we talk about the future of e-commerce, everybody's talking about AI as well. So that's going to be a big part of it.
It
Many of
is.
us don't know exactly how, but we're also investing heavily in that at Focal Software. So
Yeah,
that's the future.
it is the future, that's for sure.
All right. Well, now we're going to get into a little bit of a new component of the podcast. I call it the speed round, which is I'm going to ask you some kind of fun questions, and you can give a pretty quick answer on what you think, and maybe we'll get into a little bit, or just keep moving through these questions. There's only 3, so here's question number 1 of the speed round. What would be your number 1 piece of advice for anyone thinking of starting their own business? And you can't use "don't do it," which everyone likes to say. It can be challenging. So other than "don't do it," what's your best piece of advice if somebody wants to start a company?
I think that my best piece of advice would be that you don't necessarily have to follow all of the rules all the time. And to sometimes it's better to beg for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
All
I
right,
think that would be a good one.
good answer. Okay, next one. Entrepreneurs often say they need to surround themselves with good people and need a little bit of luck. And sometimes those are the same thing, meaning you don't know when you hire somebody that they're going to be a massive contributor, but sometimes you get someone like that. Has that happened, or just your thoughts on having a good team and maybe luck along the way sometimes?
I think that I totally agree with that statement. For me, I've been really lucky that my team has been my mom and my family and people that you can really trust. But I do think to always remember that you have to pay people what they're worth, and it's very important to have good people. Knowledge and who you know is very important, and not to underpay people, make sure they feel valued.
Yeah, and sometimes you need to hire a few people before you can get that one home run with somebody who really contributes, and then, like you said, make sure that they're happy and they
Yep.
stick around.
Yep. Absolutely.
And sometimes that is largely based on pay, but not always. Other things, good work
Oh
environment.
no. Well, we gift.
Right? Yeah, you've got perfect. All right. Last speed round question. If you had a magic wand to fix one thing that is holding you and your business back or slowing you down, what would that one thing be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say that the one thing would be I would love to have a social media whiz. I feel like that I really have to do that myself because I am so much of the product in going, okay, well, this is what we're making today, or I'm here, I'm the one who can take the videos, and I'm not very good at it. I don't use it a lot on my personal self, but I think it's so important. But I would say if I had the magic wand of either being really just fabulous at social media or having more time to do it or having somebody do it, I that the social media thing is important.
So,
Yeah.
so good marketing.
Yes. Well, I mean, that is a part of your marketing for sure.
Yeah, and I consider social media a component of e-commerce as well. So it definitely
Absolutely. Yes.
fits
Hmm.
in there. Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up the speed round. So thank you for sharing your story, Veronica. And as we wrap up, why don't you tell people how they can find you or your products, more information about you, or even reach out if somebody wants to get in touch?
Yes. Well, Again, what we do is we specialize in real estate and corporate gifting. So if you're a real estate agent needing if you're a real estate agent needing closing gifts or signing gifts or anything like that, love to be your contact. For corporate gifting, we also offer custom gift boxes, insert paper, message cards, custom designs. If you're wanting to send out, a summer team gift or corporate travel, whatever it may be. Obviously, holidays is huge. We do a lot of Christmas stuff. You can reach us on our website at pnwgiftbaskets.com, or feel free to give us a call. Shoot me an email at appleblosomgiftbaskets@gmail.com.
All right. Yes, you have the holiday season coming up, so I'm sure that's you're going to be busy for that as well.
Yes, we don't come up for air for about a month.
I'm sure. All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up today's podcast. So, Veronica, thank you for sharing your experience with our listeners, and thanks to everyone listening and watching. And we'll see you next time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joe.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Focal Insights Podcast. If you like this episode, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be alerted of new episodes. See you next time.